A student produced this for UND's TV show, Studio One.
There are more than 200 billion stars within the Milky Way galaxy. Life has only been documented on one planet within that galaxy, and that's here on Earth. Astrophysics professor Wayne Barkhouse joins us today to give insight if we are really alone. Thanks for joining us today, Wayne.
Thank you.
So first off, how would scientists define extraterrestrials?
Well, basically it's life other than the Earth. So whether it's on the planet Mars in our solar system, or it's on a planet that's orbiting another star, that would be under the general category of extraterrestrial life.
So how long have scientists been looking to space for life?
Well, people have wondered about whether there's life elsewhere in the universe for as long as they began to wonder about anything, or when we became self-aware of our environment. And so people hypothesized thousands and thousands of years ago that there may be life on other planets. Some of those people got in trouble for those views because it goes against philosophy and religion at the time. Nowadays, the sort of the modern view of looking for life elsewhere occurred roughly in the late 1950s, and it's only in the last 30 or 40 years that technology has ramped up to the point where we can actually start to do a reasonable job of detecting maybe signals coming from life beyond the Earth.
Okay, so what are researchers doing now to look beyond Earth?
Yeah, so one of the things you like to do is take advantage of the new technology that comes along. So we have this Moore laws, which says that every 18 months or so we have double the CPU power, and it's really a goal of trying to analyze as much data as possible. There's so much information, so many channels you can look at, so many frequencies and wavelengths, that to crunch all that data through in a reasonable period of time when you're still alive, be able to see the results, takes a lot of computing power. And so that sort of been ramping up over the last several years and will continue to do so in the future.
So I know there's new technology like telescopes. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Recently, back in July, there was a Russian billionaire that gave $100 million to support the SETI program. So it's a 10-year program of buying time on different radio telescopes around the United States and the world to try to see if they're able to detect signals coming from other civilizations. And today, we know a lot more than what we used to, even back in the late 1990s. There are literally thousands of planets around other stars that we know of that exist. And by looking at the numbers, the statistics, you can hypothesize to a good measure that every star at least has one planet, which means there's literally hundreds of billions of planets in our Milky Way, and therefore trillions and trillions of planets throughout the universe.
So I know that we found water on Mars. Did that get you excited as a scientist?
Yes, it does, and there's been hints of water on Mars before. We have Valles Marineris, which is like the Grand Canyon of Mars, and the only way to form that structure must have been something flowing on the surface. So to find water on Mars wasn't that extreme in the sense of a major surprise. But all the evidences point to the fact that water did exist and probably still exists on the surface of Mars. It may be under the soil a little bit, and therefore it doesn't evaporate immediately. And so that's what you need, of course, for life as we know it to exist, as one of the ingredients.
Okay. So I know scientists have received a couple notable signals. What were they?
Yeah, so the famous one that people like to always mention is a signal called the WOW signal. So that was found back in 1977 by a radio telescope at Ohio State University in Columbus. And so one astronomer came in one morning to check the recording tape. Back then it was like the dot matrix printer. So you look at the roll of paper and they found a huge signal that was detected prior. And so they turned the telescope to that location, but that has never been observed before. It was only that one time. So that could be instrumentation problems, or it could be that the aliens were just happening beaming their signal towards us that moment in time and didn't repeat, sort of like the lighthouse effect, if you can think of that. So we don't really know.
Okay. So what do you think films and movies have done to us thinking about aliens, like Star Trek and that kind of stuff?
Well, it actually captures the people's imagination. So movies like that are very important to keep it in people's mind that, it's a significant discovery life would be if we could find it elsewhere other than the Earth, and something we've always been looking for. And you don't have to be an astrophysicist to think about these things. As long as you can wonder about the universe around you, you'll always wonder if there's possibility of other life out there.
So what's personally your belief on what's beyond Earth?
Well, if you look at the numbers, like I said before, with trillions and trillions of planets, I'll put it in reverse and say, what is the chance of life only occurring on one of those planets? It seems like it's pretty small. And if anyone's seen the movie Contact, there's a phrase in there that people use, Jodie Foster, who played the astronomer in that movie, is it would be an awful waste of space if there wasn't life elsewhere in the universe besides just the Earth.
So what's the main thing you try to get across to your students?
What I try to give across to my students is the fact that you need to think in terms of diversification. Just because we have carbon-based life forms on the Earth, that doesn't mean that there's carbon-based life forms on other planets, and that's the only way you can have life. Life could originate, for example, that has to deal with silicon or other elements. It doesn't have to be carbon-based. And so we need to be very careful how we define life to make sure we don't step on other critters, if you like, if we're exploring other planets.
But so why do you think it is important that we research this stuff, though?
Yeah, so first of all, it's pure discovery, for one, and it's exciting. And people want to know what's behind the other hill, for example. And so we want to know, are we alone? But one thing to think about is, do societies advance to the point where they develop nuclear weapons, and after a period of time, they destroy each other? So if you find a civilization in our Milky Way, our own galaxy, it's probably going to be millions of years more advanced than us. And so obviously they've gone through that point of developing those type of weapons and have survived. And we would like to know if that's what our future is as a species.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us today, Wayne.
You're welcome.